So hi everybody and welcome back to the C++ tutorial series for absolute beginners. This is video 191 and in this video we want to talk about casting. I have a good news and a bad news. And the good news is casting is very simple. The syntax is super simple. When I click here, for example, you can see this is the cast syntax. Let's copy this one and put this here. And I will make in a moment an example, but before that, let me show you why it is so simple. Because this syntax, what I just copied here, it's similar to the all other cast nodes, which you can see here. We have here 4 cast nodes. It's called your static cast, reinterpret cast, dynamic cast, and const cast. And when I click now to this reinterpret cast and click here, you can see the syntax with the static cast. Here is the static cast syntax, and here is the reinterpret cast syntax, are almost the same. The only difference is the name, and that goes also with the other casts here as well. So when we watch this one, here's a dynamic cast. The only thing what changed is here the name, and the other thing is the same. And here const cast as well. That's the good news. It is very easy. So when we know how to use the syntax, we can cast, and using the syntax is super easy. Let me show you an example. But before I show you an example, what is casting at all? I mean, what means casting? Casting means you are trying to convert one type and its value to another type. And let me show you, let's make a demonstration. For example, I have here a double number. This is a variable, and I assign it the value of 5.55554 or anything like this. And now we have a double number. And now my goal is, I want not use this 5444. I want convert this one here in an integer, for example. So I want change the type here. I'm interested changing from this type here, from this expression. This is here an expression, and I want say, hey, I want a integer. And how you can make this is very simple. You are just following this syntax here now. And yeah, how we make this, let's follow the syntax right now. So let's write in static cast. And then we have here this square brackets, and this one, this is the syntax which you have to use, because when we go here again to static cast, for example, click, and you can see the black colors here, the black symbols. You have to use the gray symbols here, or the gray words. You have to replace and find what you want. So, and here, so this one you have to use. And new type and expression you have to find. So this expression here is something like this one. But in real, this expression is the type which you want converted. So with other words, this expression here, for example, has a type. Every expression has a type, by the way. And that's why they are saying any expression can be used, because every expression has a type. And we are interested actually in this type here from this expression, because this type here we want convert to the new type which we want. In my case, I'm not happy with this expression here. I say I want this one in an integer. And then what you have to do, okay, you use this expression. In this case, it is just this variable name. So I take this variable name. This is my expression, put this in. You can see I found now the expression. And now I say, okay, this is a double, and I want that this expression should be converted to an integer. And here you can see the new type. We point in here the new type int. So I want that this expression here becomes an int. In real, what you want is this type of this expression becomes an int, right? So think about this more, because we are more interested in the expression type here to change to int. The problem is you can't write here double. This is not allowed. For example, a type double it's not allowed to write. You have to write expression. Any expression. This variable is just one example. There are million types of million different kinds of expressions, but okay. And so you can see how easy actually it is casting, and this one goes for all other ones too. But of course, when you are using it like me here, you are just casting it but not using it. So we have, of course, to assign this value to a new variable. So let's create for a new variable here. Let's call it, for example, a int, a new converted number, and I assign it. So you can see the static cast here converts my double here to an int in this position. After this is finished, we assign it just to a normal int variable. And when I print this out, yesterday, out and oops, and let's say new converted number, you can see what we have. And what we have is 5. And when we think now about it, that's normally not good. That's normally not good, because now we cut off here all this decimal points. And that's very important to consider when you are doing casting. What is allowed, what is not allowed. And now comes the bad story. I said before, I have a good news. The good news is you can see casting is super simple. This line, and for all other castings as well, it's all time the same thing, just the name is changing here. But the bad news is now there is a lot of theory behind it, when to use what. So when to use this static cast, when to use this reinterpreted cast, when to use this dynamic cast and const cast. So with other words, you have to research when to use it, and what are the restrictions, and what are the conditions, and all this kind of stuff is theory, and this we will not do in this practical video. We will, on the other side, concentrate us more on examples. So, for example, after you research this one, we go, you can see here, they start here with many explanations, where to use, when to use, and all this kind of stuff. We will not do in this practical video. This one you have really research online in good C++ books, or here you can just read it here and try to understand it. And in this practical video, we will try just jump into the examples and try to understand these examples. And that is again the good news. Most time it's very easy to understand. But here is again another problem. The problem is we have not talked about inheritance, which we will talk when we go back to classes. And they make many examples with inheritance when they start to talking about user-defined class casts, because most time then they cast to inherited classes. And so that's why we will skip all these examples with this inheritance, and I will make there some simple examples like this one here, so that you get to see how to use it. But in general, you can see it's super easy. You just use this syntax and then you cast. It is more important that you know the theory behind it. And then we can continue now. There is 2 more things to mention, or even more, but we will concentrate now only on these 2 more things. There are not only forecasts. So for example, we have now one static cast, then we have const cast. These are 2, dynamic cast, reinterpret cast, 4, but we have also explicit cast and implicit conversion. What is that? Let me click this one here, show you that. This explicit type conversion, you can see here they are not talking about cast. Here this new word conversion comes into play, but actually this conversion is more or less doing something similar. We convert from one type to another type. And in this case here, this explicit type conversion is actually called in general this C-style cast. So you will hear this term C-style cast a lot in casting, because it comes from C, not C++, and they use it in C++, this C-style cast, and it is considered not to be a good style when you use it, because again you have to read the theory behind it, why it is bad. But if you know the theory, then you can use the C-style cast with no problems. If you don't know the theory, that can cause many problems, because yes, when you start here reading, you can see they are telling many things. But like I said before, we will again concentrate more on these examples, and then I will tell you a little bit about theory as well when I remember something. But it's important for you that you are read the theory behind that. And yeah, there is again one more cast explicit type conversion, that was that. And we have here this implicit conversion. Let's go here to this one here too. And you can see there's something implicit. But by the way, when you hear implicit, that means all time the compiler is doing something, not you. Explicit means all time you as a programmer are doing something. And implicit, most time the compiler is doing something. And this one is also very important that you read about this. What is the compiler doing? I can make you here a fast example. For example, let's make a fast example, for example. So if you have something like int implicit compiler conversion, and now I make something like this one, and you can see the compiler is not complaining. I have here a int type, but here I have a decimal point value. This is normally not allowed, but look what happens when I hover my mouse over it. It says here double, and it says here int. And when I print now this one out, let's print this one out here in the next line, or let's make this easier. Let's use just both here. And let's make this one implicit. So, and here, oops, there is something missing. Yes, I need this one. All right, and when I start here, and you can see there is no arrow, but what we see is this number, the second number here, is converted to 5. So you can see the same thing happens. The same thing happened what I did here on top. On top, it is called static cast, but the static cast is also called explicit because you as a programmer make it, yes, you intentionally, right? And here on the bottom, the compiler is doing sometimes this kind of stuff behind the scene. And here we have actually a problem. What is the problem here with the compiler? Perhaps you don't want that the compiler is doing something like that. That is a big problem because perhaps you need this number here, but there was anything wrong and it comes here int. So what the programmer wants in this case normally is that the compiler should print an error. But in this case, it is not printing an error, right? And that's a big problem that can cause bugs and problems and so on. And you don't see it even, right? That's the biggest problem. The compiler is not complaining. And therefore, here a reminder, therefore in C++ they changed here, not changed, they add more initializer, right? This assignment operator with direct assignment here, that's bad. But let's say you are using this list initializer here. You can see this one here. That's also allowed, right? And look what happens now. and we have an error because it says here conversion from double to int. You can see here the compiler is trying to convert from double to int. Requires a narrow conversion. With other words, narrow conversion means the compiler should be allowed to skip this decimal points. And when I get rid of this list in isolation, the compiler is allowed to skip this. And that means more or less this implicit, and then you have again read a lot of theory and so on. So these are the 5 or let's say these are the 6 things what you have to research now, and there are even more. So these are only the 6 here, but there are even more conversion, not cast probably, but conversion, right? This word conversion has more things to convert. You can convert them many things to each other, to anything, and so on. Important is that you research this one, and like I said before, only the theory is much, but the use case is super simple here. That's more or less the use case for us. This one line with different names, or we also a little bit the C style. It's a little bit different from this, but not too much. And here I want to show you one more thing. Here I found on StackOverflow a nice site. You can read this if you are interested. This is also a short summary of different casts here. And these are almost all that what we want. You can see here are the 4 casts, which I said only the name change here. The syntax is same. And this both are more or less the C style cast. They called it here functional style cast, but they are treated as a C style cast. You can see here explicit type conversion, and here this one here is that what they talk here. But the best part is they have here made a short they described it in a short way. It's not absolute perfect because they won't only give you an orientation, and it's more a thumb rule, but it's perfect for starters, and that helps a lot to categorize them and see what many programmers are using or not using. And I will link this site later below in the description, no worry. And when you go down here is another person who makes some examples, and you can see the examples are super easy. Here we have here the static cast. Here, this is the example, super easy, and they make it just with pointer. You can see, okay, we have not talked about this one. All right, this one we have not talked. It's also very easy actually, but we will talk about this in the next video, probably when I make all these examples here. Like so, something similar like this one, when you are finished with research and understanding what we are allowed and what we are not allowed. And then you can see the dynamic cast, again, the same syntax. Here, it looks only a little bit strange, but you can see here the same syntax. That is the syntax. They are assigning it to this one here, and they have it in if statement. So no difficulty, and it goes on. The only thing which is not same, it's the C style cast. This is not the same. Actually, the C style cast is, even when you watch this one here, even easier. Sometimes it looks like. Let me show you the C style cast as well. Compared to this one, this is the cast which we will use probably, and the C style cast is, for example, again, I have here my double number. I want to do the same thing like here, but instead of using a static cast, now I try this C style cast. Here I go here int, let's write here int C style casting. And now we are following again here this expression, and okay, we have here a little bit more syntax. Now we have read and see what's here are the difference, but like all time, most time the first one is a good one. We can test this, and let's see. So we follow the syntax, so new type. So again, Like here, we have here a new type. Perhaps we should write this one also here on top as a, oops, as a comment. All right, so let's follow this one as well. So first of all, we need parentheses. And now in this parenthesis, I have to write the new type. So the new type is my int, because I want it int here. All right, int. And now I have to write the expression like before. Okay, my expression is this one, double number. Double number. And you can see this one here looks even easier. So this one here looks even faster than this one here. This one here has this angel brackets and so on, but don't worry about this angel bracket. That looks only so difficult with this, but actually it's super easy. You have just to remember, here is the expression, here is the new type, and this is just the cast which you need from the different one. This one looks, C-style looks easier. You have just the expression and in parentheses this new type, but like I said, the C-style casting is not very favorable, and the reason for that is only use it when you know that it will not cause problem, but I can tell you already why. Because C-style cast is actually trying to perform different kind of casts behind the scene. So a mixture of this static cast, const cast, and reinterpret cast, or whatever. You have to read now the theory to understand what all these casts are and why C-style is probably not the preferable cast if you don't know what you are doing. So, but let's test this, right? Let's test this one as well. And let's see if our C-style cast works. Perhaps it's not working. Here's the C-style cast. Let's print this one as well. C-style cast here, and let's see. All right, we have here 5, 5, and 5. So it worked. We made from a double to int, and important is this casting, this conversion, or whatever comes. Important is we are talking about types. We go from one type, which we are not, which is most time in an expression, because an expression has all time a type, all time. This is per definition so. And then we can specify here the new type. The same goes with the C-style. This is an expression. Here is a new type. And you can see the C-style has a little bit more syntax here, by the way. Yeah, the other way around works also. And we will see when we talk a little bit more in detail with examples about this kind of stuff. What you should do is, like I said before, reading about this, but let me see if I should explain one more thing. Yes, I will explain this in the next thing and the next video, that it's important to talk about this type here a little bit. But okay, right now I think that's enough for our start. And this site here I will link if you want to read this one. And then you should, like I said, let me show you this again. These are the for casts. These are just the static cast, reinterpret cast, dynamic cast, const cast, and here this implicit conversion and this explicit conversion, which is also called the C-style cast. This kind of cast you should research, and the best way is here again, and try to figure out why they are used. And like I said, here is a short summary of this one, and you can try to read this one. I think that's a good start point for beginners. And for advanced people, they should try to understand, yeah, more the restriction here, what says here in this official papers, right? These are not the official papers, this is a copy of the official paper, but almost similar to that. All right, I think I stop here with this video. I will link all this site here in the description. And with that said, if you have any question, any comments, or anything else, write it in the comments. See you in the next video. Bye, good luck, and like all time, have fun and never give up.